Yashodanandana Jaya Raja Janaranjana Jaya Raja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jaya Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Shtatarshataji Srimad Abhay Charnavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram cheva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayet. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 9, text 35. Swarajyam yachato Maudhyan Mano Me Bhikshito Bata Ishvarat Kshina Punyena Pali Karam Ivadhana Swarajyam Yachato Maudhyan Mano me bhikshito bata Ishvarat kshina punyena Palikaran ivadhana Swarajyam ichato maudhyam Mano me bhikshito bhata Ishvarat kshina punyena Palikara nivadhana Ladies. Swarajyam, his devotional service. Yachata, from the Lord who was willing to offer. Maudhyat, by foolishness. Mana, material prosperity. Me, by me. Bhikshita, was asked for. Bhata, alas. Ishvarat, from a great emperor. Kshina, reduced. Punyena, whose pious activities. Palikaran, broken particles of husked rice. Iva, like. Adhana, a poor man. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Because of my state of complete foolishness, foolishness and paucity of pious activities, although the Lord offered me His personal service, I wanted material name, fame, and prosperity. My case is just like that of a poor man who, when he satisfied a great emperor who wanted to give him anything he might ask, out of ignorance asked only a few broken grains of husked rice. In this verse, the word swarajyam, which means complete independence, is very significant. A conditioned soul does not know what complete independence is. Complete independence means situation in one's own constitutional position. The real independence of a living entity, who is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is to remain always dependent on the Supreme Lord. Just like a child who plays in complete independence, guided by his parents, who watch over him. The independence of the conditioned soul does not mean to fight with the obstacles offered by Maya, but to surrender to Krishna. In the material world, everyone is trying to become completely independent simply by fighting against the obstacles offered by Maya. This is called the struggle for existence. Real independence is to be reinstated in the service of the Lord. Anyone who goes to the Vaikuntha planets of Goloka Vrindavan or Goloka Vrindavan planet is freely offering his service to the Lord. That is complete independence. Just contrary to this is material overlordship, which we wrongly take to be independence. Many great political leaders have tried to establish independence, but due to such so-called independence, the people's dependence has only increased. The living entity cannot be happy trying to be independent in the material world. One has to surrender, therefore, unto the lotus feet of the Lord and engage in his original eternal service. Dhruva Maharaj regrets that he wanted material opulence and greater prosperity than that of his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. His begging from the Lord was like a poor man's asking a great emperor for a few grains of broken rice. The conclusion is that anyone who is engaged in the loving service of the Lord should never ask for material prosperity from the Lord. The awarding of material prosperity simply depends on the stringent rules and regulations of the external energy. Pure devotees ask the Lord only for the privilege of serving Him. This is our real independence. If we want anything else, it is a sign of our misfortune. And again the verse, Svarajam yachito maudhyam mano me vikshito bata ishvarat kshina punyena phali karan ivadhana. Because of my state of complete foolishness and paucity of pious activities, although the Lord offered me His personal service, I wanted material name, fame, and prosperity. My case is just like that of a poor man who, when he satisfied a great emperor who wanted to give him anything he might ask, out of ignorance, asked only a few broken grains of husked rice. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Shcha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sut Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Beva Chapati Tanam Pavani Vaishnavi Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gauru Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is the last words of Dhruva Maharaj here in this chapter, regretting his initial approach with a particular desire, a very strong and focused desire to get a position greater than his grandfather, which will give him, of course, power, prosperity, name, fame. And now after he actually received the mercy of the Lord and his darshan, he realized his mistake, so he's regretting and giving a wonderful instruction also by this nice comparison, showing how foolish a person who wants such an insignificant thing like a material position from the Lord, who can give him himself. So he says this is maudhyam, a very great foolishness. It's just like asking someone who can give you whatever. An emperor can give a beggar You can ask anything. I can give you land, cities, villages, whatever, anything. But he is asking just for some small broken pieces of grains. So this is great foolishness. And we've seen this mentioned in other places. Anyone can remember where specifically that word mudha is used for somebody who wants material happiness from the Lord. Praise for that specifically. I can give you a hint who is talking about that. That's Lord Chaitanya. And he's speaking from the name of Krishna, who is approached by a devotee. Okay, this is from Madhya Lila, the instructions to Sanatana Goswami, 22nd chapter, where Lord Chaitanya, it's the process of devotional service. He describes how very fortunate souls can attain the seat of bhakti by the mercy of Krishna and Guru. But if one starts devotional service with a particular aim for Vishaya Sukha, for material happiness, that's very foolish. So I'll just read the words of Lord Chaitanya because they are very nicely and precisely saying this point, illustrating. Krishna says, let's see Bengali also, Krishna kohe ama bhaje. If somebody is worshipping me, mage vishaya sukha, begging for vishaya sukha, for material happiness, amrita chadi, and giving up the real nectar, visha mage, for what? For poison. You know, you were offered, here's a nectar. No, thank you, I want the poison pot. So that's a bada murkha. Bada murkha means a great fool. So if one engages in my transcendental loving service, but at the same time wants the opulence of material enjoyment, he's very, very foolish. Indeed, he's just like a person who gives up ambrosia to drink poison. And then, in the next verse, Krishna speaks of his thinking, what he thinks. Ami vigya, but I am very intelligent. Since I'm very intelligent, why should I give this full material prosperity? Instead, I shall induce him to take the nectar of the shelter of my lotus feet and make him forget illusory material enjoyment. So, yeah, the point here Lord Chaitanya is making is to emphasize how Krishna, his quality of compassion and mercy, that Krishna is so kind that if somebody approaches him with a sincere service but has the foolish desire, Krishna says, well, I'm intelligent, you're grateful, why shall I fulfill your desire? I will arrange it, I make such an arrangement that you'll give it up so that you can understand your real position. So like yesterday we had this wonderful story about Govardhan, the thief, who had also a very strong desire to steal the ornaments of Krishna. But Krishna was so kind, and he, in the sweet exchange, he gave him a chance to render service and to touch him and to associate. So Krishna is very kind, and he will take care of even our foolish desires. And we don't know how he will react. He might fulfill them in a way that it's not exactly what we expected. He might not fulfill them. But the point here is that such desires, like Dhruva Maharaj is speaking about himself, is something of you pray as your main prayer and main goal, main desire. It doesn't refer to a transient desires which just come up in the mind, which is natural for a conditioned soul. Just like Arjuna asked Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, why a person who is intelligent and has knowledge and knows that something is not good still is doing it as if pushed by a force. So what Krishna answered? why is such a thing happening? Anyone remembers? Yes, Prabhu? So, kama, esha, krodha, esha, this desire and this anger, which are, what's the source of them? The next line. Yeah, they're born from the contact of the mode of passion. So this is the main point. Once we are in the material world, the modes will influence. They will create these desires, especially since we've been so long here and we have a lot of samskaras, a big stock of samskaras, impressions that will come up, and then they will present as something which we experience and we thought, well, this is great, I want it again. So these desires will come up, but someone who receives this knowledge, who is very fortunate and realizes it, will understand, well, this is a foolish game. It's not me, it's not for my good. It's just like a machine. And it's programmed to work in a certain way. So the gunas, they pull us all the time. They influence us, and that's why Prabhupada is using this expression, desires born of mental speculation or imagination. They're, just the result. This is another verse from Bhagavad Gita. That's how Prabhupada translates that word, that it just arises in the mind out of nothing, but it's just imagination. We envision something, yes, this is what I want. And it will come no matter what we do until we come to the level that there is no material mind. And that's at the stage of Bhava. Rupa Goswami says, then the desires and thoughts, they will come, but they will be totally connected with Krishna. Then you're not pulled by the modes, by the external energy, you're pulled by the internal energy. And then you still have a lot of desires, and they will come up within the heart. That's how he defines in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu the stage of bhava. But then your feeling, willing, and thinking, they are not at all connected with the material modes. But before that, in all the way through our practice, bhajana kriya, and the stage of clearing of anarthas, all the unnecessary things, contamination in the heart, and even when we have been steady, that is the stage of liberation, still there will be some anartha, still be some subtle desires. So here Dhruva Maharaj, of course, speaks about very obvious material desire to have a position of a king and enjoy a lot of material senses. But even if one gives up these desires, the subtle desires can remain. Just like Raghunath Das Goswami says in Manak Shiksha, this wonderful prayers to the mind, where he uses a similar comparison with the which Lord Chaitanya gives the nectar and the poison. So he says, even when I conquer the 6 enemies, who are the 6 enemies? Anyone remembers? Usually when you say it's the 6 enemies, yes, so lust, anger, pride, illusion, and envy, and the other is greed and pride, which comes, the mada sometimes is called pride or just madness. So these 6 enemies, they are accompanying the soul in the conditioned state. So he says, even when I conquer them, who are in the verse first, he says they are like robbers. They just bind me with ropes, and even if I somehow become freed from them, and they are lying around without any power, and then I might think, oh, I'm free, right? I'm not anymore pulled by lust and anger and envy and greed and illusion and pride. But then, he says, there are other, even more formidable enemies. And he says And he gives another comparison, very illustrative, that the desire for pratishta, desire to be someone special, to have a special position, to receive honor, and etc. Yes. So pratishta, Prabhupada says, name, fame, and profit, adoration, and distinction. And this is one of the major upashakas, the weeds, Lord Chaitanya explains, that they can suffocate. So he says, Raghunath Das Goswami, that pratishta is like I'm trying to remember which was whom, because next comes the kapata, which means hypocrisy. So pratishta and hypocrisy go together. So one of them, I think pratishta was the Ramani, the prostitute, who is offering something on the plate, and that something is it's a cooked dog. You can imagine. So that's what she's offering, accompanied by her illicit lover, the hypocrisy, kapata. And he says another comparison in this, just 2 verses, but we can all imagine our precision. He says, instead of me going to the shower of nectar of Radha Krishna's wonderful qualities and pastimes and names, I go to take bath where? In the dripping acid urine of a donkey. That's the other comparison of pratishta. It's a donkey, so you get a shower of the donkey's urine, if you desire that. Just like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also says, pratishta sukharera vishta. Sukhara means the pig, and vishta is the excrements. So those who desire this fame and honor, desire, which is worse than the hog's stool. So it's a formidable entity, it's very subtle. And Raghunath Das Goswami says these two are so abominable that you can't recognize them. I can't recognize them, he says. And therefore, they're so difficult to overcome. So the only solution, so this is always, we come to a solution. If we know our disease, so this is always referring to a particular problem which Bhagavatam calls Hrit Roga, the disease of the heart. And that disease needs a cure, a special cure. So Raghunath Das Goswami specifically says for these subtle desires that the only way is to call for help. The great generals or the great leaders of Lord Chaitanya's associates, the great devotees, that they, by their kindness and mercy, will save me. So that's what he says. We should call and direct our mind to sincerely approach the devotees, because when we are bound ourselves, we cannot untie. And there are so many wonderful poems and prayers by the acharyas illustrating this point, like we are singing every morning. Gurvashtakam Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Shri Guru Vandana Banarutam Das Thakur, Haha Prabhu Korodoya, Deho More Padacha. Please give me the shelter. That's the illustration which Prabhupada gives here in the purport to this verse. We have to take shelter to actually become free from these desires, and then we'll be very happy. And I found the example here extremely exact and to the point. What means independence by being dependent on Krishna's protection? Because I mean, how do you understand this? How can I be independent by being dependent. So the example is the child. The child is just playing around freely, completely independent. But there's somebody who is watching and taking care and is protecting. And the child is carefree, right? Very happy, playing and running around. And that's independent. The parent gives, yes, you can. But the child is always, feels secure because knows, okay, my parent will protect me. So that's also what Lord Chaitanya explains in this section of verses, which I mentioned in the conversation with Sanatan Goswami. He quotes from Ramayana where Lord Ramachandra says, if once even somebody says, Tavasmi, my Lord, I'm yours. If one sincerely is prapana, surrenders, he says, I'm yours. Please take me. Please do not reject me. Then Lord Ramachandra says, then my vow is, I will never abandon you. Even if once you sincerely say, I'm yours. Krishna says, I will never abandon you, and I will never give up protecting you. So this is Krishna's kindness. Even if we're foolish, if we surrender but say, well, I also I want besides you something else. And even then, Krishna will not give us up. But still we should realize our position and be, even if we have the desires, like the second canto of Bhagavatam explains, Akama sarva kamo va mokshaka. Even if you have desires for sense gratification, for liberation, you don't have desire, whoever you are, Tivrena Bhakti Yogana, with great force and determination, you have to practice bhakti. And that practice, Srila Prabhupada many times says in purports that is possible only in the association of devotees. It's very natural because, again, if we analyze the mechanism of these desires, material desires or any desires rising in the heart, it's by Sangha, by the association. So when you associate with the lower modes, then these desires are born. But Prabhupada says, actually in the same canto, I think in, just 2-3 chapters, at the end of the description of Dhruva Maharaj's story, where it's, the story ends by this wonderful description how comes a plane from Vaikuntha and he's taken along with his mother. And then there are a few verses which say that no one can go to this place of Vishnu Padam, of the abode of the Lord, unless one has certain qualities. And the first mention was to work for the benefit of others, to be compassionate. And then there is a special verse which says, Shanta Samadrisha Suddha, one should be peaceful and equal with equal vision to everyone and clean. And Sarva Bhutha Nuranjita should be, Prabhupada translated, know the art of pleasing all living entities. And then easily, Yanti Anjasa Chutapadam, Achukta Priya Bandhava, will attain the abode of Vishnu by keeping friendship with those who are priya to the Lord, or devotees. So this Prabhupada says in that purport that one cannot advance in Krishna consciousness without the association of devotees. And the art of pleasing others means we give them Krishna consciousness by feeding them as much as they want, Prabhupada says. We're giving them prasadam, giving them the holy name and association. And by that sangha, by that touch with the transcendental internal energy, our desires change. Our heart is transformed. It's all by association. So that means we have to be exposed to that association and regularly hear. And Prabhupada explains also in the purport to the last 2 verses of 14th chapter. Anyone remembers the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita deals with what? 14th chapter. The modes of material nature, and 26th verse, before the last verse, Krishna says, because Arjuna asked him how one can be freed, right? The modes are binding us in different ways, and Arjuna asks, how is it possible to get unentangled, get freed? So what's the solution Krishna gives? Yes? Okay, so mam cha yo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitetan. So Brahma, you can attain the level of the spiritual consciousness by uninterrupted or unfailing devotional service to me. So that's, when Prabhupada explains, well, I can also read that because it's very wonderful how Srila Prabhupada says that devotional service is very simple. Devotional service to the Lord is very simple. Well, actually before that I should mention, because that's the point about association. The process of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting, remembering, the prescribed nine methods for realizing devotional service should be practiced in the association of devotees. Gradually, in such association, by the influence of the spiritual master, one's material desire to dominate is removed, and one becomes firmly situated in the Lord's transcendental loving service. This method is prescribed from the 22nd to the last verse of this chapter. Devotional service to the Lord is very simple. One should always engage in the service of the Lord, should eat remnants of foodstuffs offered to the deity, smell the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, see the places where the Lord has his transcendental pastimes, read of the different activities of the Lord, his reciprocation of love with his devotees, chant always the transcendental vibration, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And observe the fasting days, commemorating the appearances and disappearances of the Lord and his devotees. By following such a process, one becomes completely detached from all material activities. So, yes, this is the formula, and we have a wonderful chance to apply it, and it's really simple, but it's very difficult or impossible to apply it without the help of others, and this is the advice of all the acharyas and their example. And in so many places, another which comes to mind is, again, Prabhupada says the same thing, this advancement is possible only in association. That's in the advice of Lord Kapila Deva to his mother in the 25th chapter of 3rd canto. And if you remember how the chapter starts, it's a very, very famous verse, Satam Prasanga Mama Vira Samvido. It's in the saintly association by hearing of the glorious activities of the Lord, which is very pleasing to the heart, this hearing and discussions, samvida, discussions among devotees, then very quickly one becomes freed. Apavarga, one becomes very quickly, and then bhakti ratir, what was it? Kramishati, yes. Shraddha ratir bhakti kramishati. So quickly, three things come, Shraddha, firm conviction, rati, attraction, and bhakti, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says rati is bhava, and bhakti in this case refers to prema. So one quickly advances on the path of devotional service through this very simple thing, in saintly association to hear about Krishna. So Prabhupada says in that commentary that, again, this is possible in the association. But it's interesting why Kapila Deva speaks these verses about saintly association and who are devotees. He explains also their qualities. It's in answer to his mother's question. It's an interesting question she puts. She says, she says, I'm disgusted with my material desires. I'm fed up. I cannot anymore tolerate them. And I mean, this is, again, a very good example for us, because we may feel sometimes, well, will I ever overcome, there's anarthas and material desires, and there is no hope, it seems. We might think like that, but we should remember where we started, in what time we're living, what kind of background we had. We are really like a children of Kali Yuga with basic, no qualities at all, good qualities. And at the same time, we have all kinds of bad qualities. And this is again and again even our acharyas. Like I just read yesterday one verse from Vrindavan Mahimamrita by Prabodhananda Saraswati, and he says, my swadharma, my duties and any pious, any good activities I have given up. I'm far away, and I'm very fond of doing all kinds of material activities. And for this reason, all great persons, saintly persons, they avoid me, and even outcasts avoid me. And then he says, it's really strong words. He says, so will the very kind-hearted Vrindavana will reject me? He's like, that's my only hope. The shelter of Vrindavan, the shelter of devotees, and many prayers like that. Raghunath Das Goswami also says, great devotees, not great devotees, he says, great persons never reject those who approach them with humility and ask for shelter. He says, Munchaivam Nadrisham, he says, please don't, he's approaching Radha and Krishna with this argument. He says, even if great persons in this world, they don't reject those who surrender, what to speak of me, who I'm approaching you, who are the greatest of all. And please don't reject me, Munchaivam Naiva. Don't reject me, don't reject me. And Rupa Goswami, similarly, he, in one wonderful prayer to Srimati Radharani, he says, please do not reject me, and you cannot reject me because your heart, Navanitasi, Yatsada, it's like always, the nature of your heart is that it's always melted by the compassion and mercy you have. So devotees always pray, and Prabhupada says also in a purport to second canto, I forgot now the verse, where it's described that, again, the same similar point, one cannot advance unless one gets the dust of the lotus feet of devotees. And Prabhupada says, so that's what devotees do. They try to take shelter of the lotus feet of devotees. And that's why, he says, that's why they go to Vrindavan and they approach Srimati Radharani and pray. Please, and they say, he says, please take me, don't reject me. And if Srimati Radharani accepts us, then Krishna will definitely also accept us. So this is the process. This is the humility of the devotees. They always admit their inability to and unqualification to advance, but they have hope, because if they approach the merciful devotees, they will be kind and help them and free them. That's also the prayer of Raghunath Das Goswami. If I call out, please save me from these rogues, and the kind devotees of the Lord will take mercy, and then they will help me. And again, to the point of surrender, if we take shelter like that without any pride, with realizing we have no strength on our own, and no power, like no anything. Gopinath Mama Nivedana Shuno. Vishya Durjana, I'm such a wicked person, praise Bhaktivinoda Thakura. Sada Kamarata, always full of material desires. But I take shelter of you. And such songs are so important also. This is part of association, again, with devotees, with great pure devotees, because they, in their bhajans, in their poems and poetry, they reveal their heart. Their heart is just, they open it, and then when we hear and repeat and sing or read them, like the Sharanagati. It's just such a wonderful collection of songs which starts from exactly where we are, our position, and approaching the Lord in humility, Dainya, which is the first step in his explanation of the 6 processes of Sharanagati, of taking shelter of Krishna. And then we only feel safe, that's what he says. We'll feel happy, we'll feel free. That's the real independence, what Prabhupada says. And just one last story, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I will offer you everything, my body, manasa, deho, geho, jokishum, or whatever I have, my mind, my possessions, my house, my family, my, he says, even my fence, everything, my animals, domestic animals, everything is yours. I'm just a guardian, I'm taking care of them. Doesn't mean that devotee doesn't fulfill the duties, but as a servant, as a guardian of Krishna's property. And then he says, I'm joyful, everything becomes mine, is not anymore bothering me, everything becomes wonderful by your protection. And he lived like that, he showed it by example. Like Gaur Govinda Maharaj gave this story of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. One of his daughters was reached already age, or passing the age of, at that time, accepted socially for society to be already engaged or married. So his wife was telling him, why don't you do something? You know, people are starting talking that they don't. The parents, I just heard in the morning, Prabhupada was saying the parents' duty is to take care of their children, are married properly. So his wife was telling to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, why don't you do something? You're doing nothing. You're not going and checking, you know. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what did he do? He went to the deity, to Gopinath, and prayed. Gopinath, this is your family, this is your daughter. You have to do something. If people start talking bad things about this family, it will go to you. You'll have bad name. So better solve the problem. That's how Gaur Govinda Maharaj told that story. So that was the solution of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was just, again, I mean, we cannot imitate the devotees. We cannot imitate also the surrender of Srivas Thakur when Lord Chaitanya asked, how do you maintain your big family? I don't see you working. Nowadays, everybody is working hard. He says, doing many things, and I don't see you are really busy working. And Srivas Thakur just clapped 3 times. Lord Chaitanya was, what is this? He says, my Lord, one day, if I completely depend on Krishna. If he provides, one day. If he doesn't provide, one day I fast. If he doesn't provide, the second day I fast. And the third day, if there's nothing, I just go and jump in the Ganges. Lord Chaitanya said, no. Lakshmi Devi personally will take care, will supply everything for such a surrender soul. So we can't imitate it, but the mood is there. The Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, that's what we have to solve problems. It doesn't mean we don't have to take care of the family, don't solve the problems, but the mood will be, we first approach the Lord and say, this is the problem. That's also what Prabhupada says when Krishna Balaram, Gaurnitai, Radhashyam were installed in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada was saying in morning walk, now we have Krishna Balaram, Gaurnitai, and now they will protect us. Whatever problems we have, no problem. We can just go and say to Gaurnitai or Krishna Balaram, say, my dear sirs, here's the problem. We just submit it, and then they will take care, because they're the most powerful. So this is the mood of the devotee, submitting. So what happened with the story of Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Next day, a marriage proposal party came with a good candidate, a good boy. Okay, so I'll finish here. Any comments? Yes, Maharaj. Mike?
Krishna. Yes, it works. Thank you. Very nice meditation for us. I have a brief comment, and then I have a brief question, and then I have a devil's advocate question.
Wow.
The brief comment is to the verse, Swarajyam, means independent, but Prabhupada's word for word translation.
His service.
Devotional service.
Yes. Yeah.
So he kind of sums it up. What he elaborates in the purport, he puts also there.
Word for word.
Yeah. So this is often Prabhupada will do this. I think in another place in the Bhagavad Gita, he translates Rahasyam as devotional service. Rahasyam means secret, but okay, yeah. And he's actually simply following Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur there. The question is, the short question is about the reference you made to Srila Rupa Goswami saying that all the desires of the devotee are free from the modes of nature. Can you give a bit more location of that, where he's saying that?
That's it, the description of, I think in the beginning when the description of Bhava Bhakti begins.
Okay.
And when he describes what Bhava is and what are the symptoms, and somewhere there is this verse that I can't remember now the Sanskrit, but that's basically what he means, that the thoughts and feelings are inspired or moved by internal energy.
Okay.
Well, I will find it out.
Yeah.
And
So the context is bhava.
Yeah,
Bhava bhakti.
yeah.
And now comes the devil's advocate. You spoke very nicely about the necessity of association to progress successfully in spiritual life. I think with the implication it has to be ongoing association. One might object that Dhruva Maharaj was all by himself, and you will say, no, he had the association of Narada. But Narada came, he said, chant this mantra, and then he left. And that was it. So someone might want to argue that he's a counter-example to what you're saying.
Yeah, well, but the example is that I think still the answer will be that's the association, a very powerful association, which really made it possible for him to achieve such a wonderful result in so short time, such a short time. So we can't really say, well, he was alone, because he gave him specific instruction how to worship the deity and chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and then we know in a few 6 months or almost, yes, 6 months, that was the time. So basically that's nothing. I mean, that was in Satya Yuga, right? So that's for us here in a few days. I mean, again, we could say, but he was alone, but still, it was really very quickly after Narada Muni alone, just this, and then the Lord appeared. And that was it, he attained perfection. But then another example following this, we might say, and to balance the argument that with Bharat Maharaj, that he was alone and he got into trouble. And that he didn't achieve perfection in a few months. He was practicing for years, but he was alone. And of course there, if we read carefully the chapter and the purports, and there are different reasons given why he fell down. And one, of course, is that he became negligent, which is an offense by itself. distracted and negligent. If you become negligent to your practice, then you might be distracted and then gradually fall. Then there's also a reason explained that he committed offense in the past, unknown, but there's some aparada in the past, and that was the cause for his fall down. And one was that he was alone, without association. And I think that's a very powerful explanation, at least why it went in such a way that he couldn't realize what was happening. Because it was explained how he was, still continuing to practice and meditate, but then his mind was, where is the deer? And then gradually, it just replaced instead of, and he was so highly advanced. Already he was experiencing the symptoms of bhava. That's what's described in Bhagavatam. So definitely that's why the acharyas explained there must be some aparada, because from bhava you can fall only because of aparada. But if he was in association with others, that's why when he became a deer, he went and lived in nearby, near the sages, and he was just hearing, and he took the lesson. So that's one thing that comes to mind, that they say that if others were around, they would say, what are you doing, and help him. Of course, we can say, well, but the next life, he also was Jada Bharata, he behaved like crazy, like that. But these are special cases. And I think the road laid out is very clear, basically, in when we see the Bhagavatam, the general instructions. That's why I say the question of Devahuti was, I cannot stand anymore these desires. Is it possible at all to get free? Because it seems, it's a similar question to the Kumaras. Is it possible to disentangle the senses from the sense object? They seem so perfectly made to match each other perfectly. And then they ask Brahma, the creator, who created the senses and sense objects, is it possible? And he was like, well, I don't know. It's a good question. It seems impossible, so they ask that Hamsa Avatar appeared. And so it's 11 canto, very interesting discussion. But Kapiladev was very simple. He says, yes, we are bind, and it's because of association. And this is the only reason why. Because we associate, and we cannot unentangle. And the same desire, the same association, the same attachment, when we attach to the external objects, that keeps us bound. And he says the same attachment, when it's transferred to the devotees, that frees. Another, also, Rishabhadev says, Aho vimukte dvaram, the door for freedom, for liberation opens when only one associates with great devotees. So everybody is saying this is the way. But how to do it, then there are details, and again in the third canto, we see that in a later chapter, Lord Kapiladev explains that there are different expressions depending on the practitioners of bhakti. Bhakti may come out in a certain way. So he says those who are still under the modes, not doing devotional service above the modes, they are under the modes, they will express a particular way of behavior. And then he says, so this is the way how it will come when you are in the mode of ignorance. So what's envy, anger, hatred, violence, these things will come from a devotee who is practicing bhakti. If you are under the mode of material ignorance, material modes of ignorance. So, and Bhinadrik, you have a separate vision, you will not see equally others. You will not see the soul, and you'll see, these are my friends, these are my enemies. I like you, I hate you, like that. And then Rajaguna, strong desire to enjoy, a few other things are there, and still Bhinadrik will be there, the separate vision. And even in Sattva Guna, you have a desire to get free and things like that. It's more subtle, but still your egoistic desire, and still you have separate vision. And Prabhupada in this case explains that separate vision means separate desire from Krishna. Again, the same thing, independently you desire something. So having some desires which are for material things, but the main point is we shouldn't be independent. If we submit them, say, this is it, my Lord, I am yours, and I'm not independent, but I want to be dependent on you. So please, it's your problem. You take care. And this is the mood. But my point was, in terms of association, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that if we see somebody exhibiting strongly these lower quotes, gunas, modes of qualities of the influenced by the modes, then you should be take a distance. So you are advised to take association which is beneficial and uplifting. So if obviously somebody is envious and angry and hateful and etc., you better take a distance but still respect. And Rupa Goswami, I think, gives a very nice summary of how we should associate with different devotees. If somebody just chants Krishna and then in the mind manasadriyata, you offer respect in the mind. Those who are established, receive diksha and then do nice devotional service, pranadi, we have to offer us obeisances. And those who are advanced in worship of the Lord and their hearts are free from the desire to criticize, nindari shunya, they don't criticize us. So these are the great devotees. Then we should try to associate with them, try to hear from them and serve them. So this is the different types of association we should look for. And there are other places also. In 11th canto, the Madhyamadikari also specifically chooses the association in a particular way. And again, avoids those who are those who are, what was the word? Envious, dvishat? No, I forgot the verse now. But those who are envious, and again, this refers normally those who are envious to devotees of the Lord, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says, also to devotees who are very proud and think they are very advanced. Those who think they are Mahabhagavata, but they don't have qualities, one should also be, upeksha, should avoid that type of association. But we are never advised to actually be alone in that sense. Well, like you say, although there might be some exceptions for a certain time like that, but usually all the examples and the advice is to look for association, pray for it. And when we have it, we have to be very careful to maintain it and enrich it. I don't know if this...
Thank you.
Any? Yes.
Maybe as a small follow-up. Dhruva Maharaj obviously associated with the instructions of Narada Muni. He took that very seriously, and we very often have the discussion Vani Vapu. So, associating with the instruction, does that count as powerful association as directly having the association of others? Was that the secret of success of Dhruva?
I guess we might say that also, definitely. He was associating with Narada Muni by following his advice, basically. He followed very strictly. So that's a type of association, certainly. And this is there. And Prabhupada many times says this is the most important service, serving the instructions and associating. And he exemplified so wonderfully. Right. So I was just going to say how Prabhupada exemplified by saying, I am never separated from my Guru Maharaj, because I always think of him and of his instructions. So I'm always with him. So when they passed once along the Samadhi in Mayapur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Samadhi, someone commented from his godbrothers later, and the disciples heard how he's not coming to pay respect to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. What is this? And Prabhupada says, I'm always with him. I'm never separated, not even a moment. But that doesn't mean that we can say, well, okay, that's enough. I'm connected with my guru, because yes, Maharaj says part of the instructions, and the very important instructions, to be with devotees, and that's why I quoted many times. Prabhupada says one cannot advance. Even in one place, I think he says, if one thinks that one can advance, that's madness alone. So that's there also, and it just refers to not specifically Vani and Vapu. It refers to environment, because in the environment of devotees, especially devotees who are sincerely serving Krishna, and that's the energy. And if we say, well, I'm connected only through instructions, if we are placed in another type of environment, in another energy, then there is a danger. I mean, that's the negative side of instructions. The positive is you always associate, but the negatives is, which again comes in that chapter of Mahaprabhu, the instructions on devotional service. What was it? Prefer to be in a cage with a tiger or a lion instead of being with a materialist. So that's the point. Even if you are, or impersonalist, Mahaprabhu says, even if you are very advanced, if you hear their bhashya, their commentaries, you fall down by association. So we cannot have this as excuse. Well, I'm connected, I'm remembering instructions. If we are very powerful, very advanced, and already liberated, we might not get influence, or will transfer the environment ourselves. And that's what Prabhupada says. I mean, that's the power of a pure devotee, and that he was encouraging devotees and empowering them, telling them, when they say, well, go and open a center, well, Prabhupada, we're alone, we'll struggle, there are no devotees, isn't that dangerous? You make devotees, you make association. Okay. So that's taking a risk on the behalf of the instruction, and then there is more protection, but still we have to be careful to not expose to the environment, especially through hearing, and having a close connection, intimate connection with those who have very strong desires opposite to Krishna. Then we can catch up with this. It's just, that's how it works. Any other? Yes?
Topics. It came to my mind when you were talking about the bodies influenced by the enemies, like want to be great or want to be famous. And unfortunately I have experienced some of that in my life, including in my own self. But also it came to me a concept that many times I also experienced the bodies that, because they didn't want to be perceived as influenced by this, they were renouncing to perform devotional service at their highest qualification. I have seen the bodies that, for example, sings very nice, but due to shame, or even because they don't want to perceive like they want to show up, they were not singing for the devotees or for the deities. Or the bodies that were book distributing, and they were capable to distribute more books, but they were not distributing that many books for the same reason. They didn't want to be the best one, or okay. So, yeah. And even many devotees that can be good managers, but they don't manage, or they don't get the position of managers for the same reason, or devotees who can make business and they renounce to that side of their potential. So could you please?
Very good point, Prabhu. I think it's really connected with what we discuss, and exactly one may fall into that trap well, I shouldn't take any position, shouldn't take any service, or not use my qualities, because people will respect me, devotees, and then that's dangerous, whatever, and I don't want that. But who is the center? For whom you are doing it? It's kind of the opposite of desiring fame, but again, it's about you. Well, I don't want to be in that position, but it's not about us. It's about Krishna. So I mean, we should recognize, especially again with association with others who can give us advice. Seniors, we should always be in the shelter of seniors, so they can tell us, you can do that, and you're qualified for that. And we may say, no. I mean, that's natural that devotee feels humble and doesn't think there's a quality, but if that is there, we should understand it's not ours. That's what Prabhupada, I mean, he did such a, we can't express it, describe it, such a miraculous thing. And he said, I did nothing. I just tried, what was his words a few times? He said, I took a little seriously what my Guru Maharaj taught me, just a little seriously. So I just tried, he says, I'm not a scholar, I'm not a great devotee, I was just an ordinary grihasta all my life. But I just try my best, took it little seriously. And that's the result. It's only my Guru Maharaj's mercy. And so this is the mood. No, in that sense, no shyness. Prabhupada is very bold in that sense. Even he says, I'm proud, but not, he says, I'm proud for my superiors, my Guru Maharaj and Parampara, because they're great. And I'm proud because they're so great. This is the justified type of pride and desire, etc. So we shouldn't think like that and think, well, this is my quality or my disqualification, I cannot do it. And as you say, if we are capable of doing business, that's what Prabhupada says, do it for Krishna. You're capable of managing, do it for Krishna. If you can sing, sing for Krishna. But for Krishna, for His pleasure, and know that this talent and ability is coming from Him. It's just not yours. He's using you, and then you're very happy. And you can be proud of that. Yes, I'm very happy and proud that Krishna is using me. It's not my thing. And then you're safe. But the point is, we always offer it to Krishna at the feet of Guru and Gauranga. And then that's not, and then we can receive, honor and everything else, but we won't be touched because we're not looking for it. That's the point. We shouldn't be looking for it. And if we put Krishna in the center, His pleasure, then and we can do anything, even something which we are not qualified, we'll still do it because of desire to please Krishna. That's the driving force. The other is something wrong, some false ego. It's just the opposite. False ego could be, I'm really great, or I'm nobody and I can't do anything. It's the same, just the opposite side of the coin. Also false ego. Real ego is, I'm Krishna's. Whatever he wants, I do. Oh, it's time. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.